What's good, friends? Welcome to Fantasy Focus Football alongside Field Yates and Mike Clay. My name is Daniel Dopp. We have a huge Friday show planned for you, a Thursday Night Football recap, part 2 of our Week 2 preview, as well as our starts of the week, and a couple of players we may be bullish or bearish on. But first and foremost, it's great to see you guys. Field, I see you're wearing your towel shirt again today. It looks really soft.
Yeah, it is very soft.
Do I have permission to feel this
Please
shirt?
do, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
Doesn't it feel nice?
One of my
Get one of
favorite
those,
shirts.
yeah.
You know, it's funny is there was last summer, Chapin and I, our kids were extremely young, and we hired a nanny for a month, and she was very, very fashion forward, and she's an incredibly sweet girl, very nice, and Chapin and I went out like 3 times over the course of that month, and the nanny noticed that I wore this exact same shirt each time.
Stop.
And on the 3rd time, she was like, I have to tell you something. She's like, you have to stop wearing that crazy shirt. I was like,
I love getting fashion advice from your nanny.
Yeah,
like, that's so
you guys
good.
know, I have a lot of clothing. I guess I just wasn't paying attention, but she's like,
I'm guilty of
literally
this,
every
too.
time you've gone out, you've been wearing that shirt. You have to stop.
You have to do something.
So I
different.
put it into hibernation for a while, and it's back.
Now I love it. Mike, you wore your nicest brown shirt today.
I did.
Olive.
T-shirt. Yeah, I went for it. It's fine.
No big deal.
Not feeling too creative or pleased today. We'll get to that in a
Yeah,
second.
we'll dive into that in
You're
a little
wearing
bit.
A jersey?
Larry Fitzgerald
I'm wearing
jersey?
a
Should
Larry
we address
Fitzgerald
this
jersey.
now or
No, we're going to address it a little bit
Okay,
later
we'll
on in the
address it
show. I'll
later.
let you
Okay.
guys know why I'm wearing a non-Lions jersey, but
All right.
you're allowed to wear jerseys of other teams as long as you're into the player, right? Like, that's okay.
Yeah, of
I don't
course.
know.
Listen, Daniel. You stood by the Lions through some of the crappiest decades, not years, decades imaginable in the NFL. If you want to root for the Cardinals, I think anybody but the Packers, Bears, and Vikings, I'm good with it.
I am with you. And speaking of the Packers, Field Yates, that defense might be a problem for us. They
are
have
definitely
been
a problem.
unbelievably good through the first 2 weeks of the season. A couple things we need to start with here, and obviously we're going to get into both sides of this game, but the 2 big stories for me, unfortunately, we lost Austin Eckler to an Achilles injury. Appears that he's probably going to be done for the season.
Yep.
And Jaden Reed, unfortunately, broke his collarbone. Reports he may be out 6 to 8 weeks, maybe come back mid-November timeframe. So that's going to be tough. It'll be next man up for the Green Bay Packers, which is probably going to be Savion Williams or somebody else because they hate Matthew Golden. Mike, do you want to go ahead and take over from here?
No, I
Get
don't
here.
want
Yeah,
to.
Packers win 27-18, by the way.
yeah, they
Garbage time helps the
Yeah,
Commanders.
it was not that. It didn't feel that close at all. The
It
Packers
wasn't
just-
that close.
The Packers just kept letting them hang in there, probably because they weren't utilizing Matthew Golden enough.
Malik Heath and Savion Williams got more run than
So let's talk
Matthew
about this.
Golden.
So let's
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
this, because after 1 week, we told ourselves, we pledged that we're not going to overreact to everything, positively or negatively, that happened from week 1.
Yes.
At one point, Mike, does the sample size of the Packers, A, not playing Matthew Golden enough, and B, more importantly, not utilizing him enough come to fruition? Because he had 0 catches. He had 2 rushing attempts last night. He got a couple of targets. There was a downfield shot. But when the Packers began the game, 3 receivers were on the field. None of them was Matthew Golden. Has your tenor on Matthew Golden changed dramatically, just a little bit, or not at all?
Yeah, it has changed short term to the point that he's nowhere close to starting lineups in fantasy.
Yeah,
The good news is that for the second week in a row, he was second in routes to only, and snaps as well, to only Romeo Dobbs. Yeah. The problem was, if you watch closely what he was doing out there, and I was watching closely, obviously, first of all, Matt LaFleur is awesome. Yeah. His design game plan, unbelievable. Just how guys break wide open. It's unbelievable. So props for that. But Matthew Golden was not even a first read often. I mean, he was a decoy for the most part. Yeah. They did take a couple shots. We could be having a different conversation today. There was an end zone target. He missed him. He was late on it. Yeah, been a touchdown.
I mean,
and
that
then
was Jordan Love's problem.
Yeah, that was
Jordan
on
Love
him.
problem.
Missed him
And then
short, yeah.
there was could have been a 93-yard touchdown where he missed him again by a couple of feet. That would have been a long touchdown with Golden speed. So had those, I'll say this, had those plays connected, even one of them might be like, all right, looking good pick in the middle round. But I would have came in here and told you trade him now, because he's just not getting enough run. He's not part of this offense. So to the people who said, I don't care if he's a first-round pick, they're going to keep rotating wide receivers, and this is just what the offense is. Guess what? You were right. That's
Through 2 weeks, you're right. Yeah.
So it might change at some point, but you cannot start him right now. Honestly, you know what I was thinking? He's being utilized like Marvin Mims, essentially.
Yeah. Wow.
I was going to say Dontavian Wicks last year because I felt like Dontavian Wicks was the all route run team without actually getting any production.
But only when someone was out, like if Christian Watson was out. Maybe.
Yeah, and Jaden Reed played 4 snaps. This was back to the thing that you had just said. Jaden Reed played 4 snaps, didn't get any production. Yeah. I would have loved to be able to replace Jaden Reed in my lineup after that.
Maybe the most important takeaway here then is, okay, so Matthew Golden, until further notice,
can't start.
Maybe all season can't start. We'll see. Yeah. We hope that changes, but definitely not startable in week 3 when they play the Browns.
You're not dropping him, right, Mike? You're benching him at this point. Is he
droppable in like a 10-team league? Yes. Is he fine to keep on the end of your bench in case next week they come out and decide, okay, we're going to get him as 7 targets, which we thought coming into the season would happen?
We're a couple weeks
Yes.
away.
I mean, they did come out in the first drive, and what they do? They featured Dontavian Wicks. That was clearly a game plan. You know, he was the first read. Like, they were like, all right, he must have had a good week of practice. We're coming out. That's what I thought Golden was going to get this year, and they're just not there yet.
What made you think that? Was it the fact that he was the 22nd overall pick in the draft?
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
It was that and also all
Yeah.
positivity in the offseason. Like, this
is
a real deal.
I'm validating your hypothetical Matthew Golden role by the fact that he was the first Packers wide receiver they've taken in the first round in over 20 years. So Matthew Golden, not startable. Keep him on benches, but droppable in a 10-team league if you must. Jordan Love, I remember last year coming into last season, he was like quarterback 9 or 8 on my board. And I thought about all the weapons he had. And I was like, is the thing that we're missing not like, is it Jaden Reed? Is it Christian Watson? Is it Romeo Dobbs? But maybe Jordan Love might just go win NFL MVP. Might have been a year too late on that, as he is playing at a very, very high level right now, is Love, who had 292 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and nearly 21 fantasy points. So 21's like a good number, to be clear. Like, if you started Jordan Love last night, kudos to you, it worked out. On the other side of the equation, like, Jaden Daniels played one of the worst games I've ever seen Jaden Daniels play. It is now, 19-game career, and he still ended up with like 19 fantasy points, right? So Love definitely has entered that, call it somewhere between like quarterback 8 to 12 range for me because of the way he has played so far. But he's going to have some things go really right for him week in, week out. This offense is primed to have some monster weeks, but like next week playing against the Browns, who I think will play good defense against passing-only quarterbacks, might not be quite to the point of a top 10 player. But is there any Packers pass catcher that you guys want to be starting right now?
No.
Well,
including
borderline Tucker Kraft. I think we're going to be ranking him as a back-end tight end.
That's fair.
Back-to-back weeks with a touchdown.
A couple guys dropped out.
Yep.
We talked about it yesterday. A couple of guys dropped out of the top 12 now, so I think he'll be in that weekly conversation.
But I don't want any of the wide receivers.
I agree on the wide receivers, but Kraft has probably entered the conversation, right? I think there are a lot of people that watched that game last night and are thinking what I was thinking, holy crap, this guy is baby George Kittle, right? 6 catches, 124 yards, and a touchdown, rumbling, stumbling, bumbling, doing his thing as a blocker as well. Here's what I would say about Tucker Kraft that makes him an intriguing top 10-ish tight end, maybe even higher than that, is if you look at some of the players that are occupying space at the back end of our tight end 1 rankings, he's a better player than those guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he is amongst, I would imagine, and I haven't put too much thought into this, but like, he's one of the 10 most talented tight ends, right? Amongst healthy players too. Like, I think Isaiah Likely's part of that conversation when healthy, but he's not healthy. He also has a Mark Andrews problem on his team. So I'm very intrigued by Tucker Kraft going forward. I would say that I am prepared to live with the 6 catches for 124-yard touchdowns. I guess.
Yeah, of course you're prepared to live with that. Yes.
What I meant to say was I am going to be incredibly grateful for those, but I'm prepared to live with like the 2 catches. Even last week, I think it was under 20 receiving yards. He just had a touchdown to bail you out.
Yeah.
I just want to say about agree on Kraft. On Love, 3 carries, 12 yards, 1 more rushing. I think with that defense being so good, I'm not sure he's going to add a lot with his legs this year or really be chucking it in the second half. So that's my slight pause on his ceiling. But you're right. He'll probably hang around the QB1 conversation. And by the way, yeah, he's playing great except for when he's throwing to Matthew Golden. So we need to connect on some of those deep shots. I'm thinking maybe we call him like Michael Bronze now. Do we like change his name?
Stop from Matthew Golden to Michael Bronze.
Steve honorable mention.
I like it.
Bill
off the podium, huh?
Bill no medal.
Packers spent $13.5 million on Christian Watson and a first-round draft pick on 2 wide receivers they're not even utilizing in this offense. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Right now is not the time to question the Packers.
No, they're looking fantastic.
No, we are questioning them for fantasy football, okay?
I'm just saying.
Look, everything they're doing is great for the Packers. If you're a Packers fan, you're like, I don't care about this at all. But We're here to talk about fantasy football value, and we want this guy to get the.
All right, so with fantasy football value, then let's spin ahead and talk about the running back on the other side because
two things really. Yeah.
You want to do that? Go ahead.
No. Let's just say we have two more things to cover in this game.
With Austin Eckler going down, obviously Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt feels like he's going to take a jump up for us because of the backfield situation. Now he hasn't looked super fantastic.
I thought he looked fine last night.
He looked
in
good
the
enough.
Construct of
correct.
Listen, the Packers were bum rushing them. Second time I've used that term in like a week, so I apologize to the people that are anti the term bum rush. I think it was you who was like, "What does that even mean?" Packers were swarming last night on defense.
Yes, they were.
Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill is going to be fine. I think he's going to see a pretty significant uptick in volume as well. Yes, Jeremy McNichols will play. I don't think it's a one-for-one replacement. That Jeremy McNichols absorbs all of Austin Eckler's snaps, and Bill continues to play in his role, especially as the season rolls along. They'll continue to grow more trustworthy of a seventh-round rookie, but stock way up for Bill.
Yeah, I looked at it last year when Austin Eckler was out and a little bit at when Brian Robinson was out, and we did see a lot of Jeremy McNichols, and we saw a lot of Chris Rodriguez. I expect him to continue using 3 running backs in this game. The last snap played by JCM last night was in the third quarter. He didn't see the field in the fourth quarter. It was 10 straight snaps. For 10 straight running back snaps because Debo took a snap right after Eckler left. That was just McNichols. So I agree to an extent. However, he's going to be a thorn in the side. McNichols is essentially the backup for Eckler. Chris Rodriguez is essentially the backup for JCM. So I think all 3 guys see the field. I think Krosky-Merritt can flirt with RB2 numbers if they expand his role, but he has to do more in passing situations because he had no catches again. That's 2 weeks in a row with no catches. Like, how is he going to provide running back 2 numbers without any involvement in the passing game? That's going to have to change.
Raiders, Falcons, Chargers are next 3 games. I think
that's going to be better for that offense. Yeah.
The first 2, they can at least the Chargers could be excellent on offense, but the first 2, to me, not good enough that you'll be playing from behind.
That's what I was going to say. Like he got game scripted out of this, and I think more often than not, the Commanders probably won't have him game scripted out of games as they're trying to come from behind.
They may not have a choice, right? They just may have to play him more. We always talk about like how a player is utilized in a game in which a teammate is hurt can change dramatically after a week, or in the case of the Commanders, 9 days to prepare for their week 3 matchup against the Raiders.
I am definitely worried about starting running backs, though, against the Green Bay Packers. After the first 2 weeks, they held both the Lions and the Commanders under 100 yards combined on the ground with both those teams. Those are 2 good rushing football teams.
Yeah, this might be the defense. I mean, every year we have massive turnover in terms of fantasy defenses. The number 1 scoring fantasy defense is finished outside the top 10. The next year, 6 of the last 8 seasons, that position turns over. That's why you wait till the last 2 rounds to take kickers and defenses. It's the same thing. This could be the Packers' year where they blow up and are the top scoring fantasy defense or one of them.
Last thing to talk about here is the pass catchers.
Yeah, just quickly, and we can table this for mostly next week because we addressed it throughout this week. Concerned about Terry McLaurin back-to-back under 10 fantasy point games? My answer's probably not.
No.
9 targets last night.
Yeah.
By the dip. Nine targets last night. Debo was certainly aided by the garbage time.
Yes.
Still, 8 targets. He was involved much more early than Terry McLaurin is. Like, I think Debo is, for now, like, hanging steady as a top 30 wide receiver option.
Yeah, even Jaden Daniels, a little, like you said, he had 19 points, a little uninspiring. He hasn't had, like, that huge game like we saw from, Josh Allen last week.
Great defense he's played.
Exactly. So I think that, maybe it is your only opportunity to buy on Jaden Daniels. Might be. So buying the offense.
I think that Debo Samuel has kind of put himself in a spot where, like you just said, it's probably in that top 30 conversation. Regression shouldn't hit this hard for the entirety of the season with Terry McLaurin. We expected a little bit of regression after last year, but not quite this. So I think I'm still hanging tight with both of these Commanders pass catchers.
By the way,
what are you laughing at? Yeah.
I'm laughing at, I'm going to guess Tyler, our producer, is responsible for this. But the caption when we were talking about Terry McLaurin was, "Put it in reverse, Terry." Harkens back. Tyler gets that credit. Okay, way to go, Tyler.
Good.
Bravo.
Way to go, Tyler.
Bravo,
Nice
Tyler.
job.
Well done by you. So this is why you got to watch the stream on YouTube as well and subscribe if you do. All right. Week 2 part 2 preview time.
Yeah, since you mentioned YouTube, go ahead and head on into the chat where our buddy Eric Moody is hanging out. Ask some questions. We're going to preview the rest of week 2 here. Field, why don't you give us your first takeaway first?
Well, this is my my topic to highlight going into week 2. My first one is, and again, a reminder that we have already covered some ground yesterday. It's still early on in the season. These are not prioritized in like a specific 1 through X order. This is just things that are coming to mind for me.
Okay.
Let's talk about the value of the rookie wide receivers after what we saw in week one. We discussed the running backs for the most part yesterday from this rookie class. Tedero McMillan, I think, is a clear stock-up player. You can see their week one production this up on the screen right now, which included Emeka Egbuka going off for 23.6 fantasy points. Here is how I have those three wide receivers: Tedero McMillan, Travis Hunter, and Emeka Egbuka ranked for week two. First, Tedero McMillan, wide receiver 21 for me. They play against Arizona.
Yep.
Looking forward to this game because Arizona's defense got a big boost in the form of Will Johnson, but T-Mac looked legit. This guy looked like a pure wide receiver one for the Panthers that will get there maybe one day in fantasy. Number two, Emeka Egbuka. They, of course, play Monday night against the Houston Texans. Of note, Chris Godwin returned to practice yesterday. Not going to play this week, but we'll monitor Chris Godwin's eventual return to the lineup because that will have ramifications for somebody in the Bucs offense.
Sure will.
It may not be Emeka Egbuka. It might be Mike Evans, but it certainly is going to change how things will look in this Bucs offense. He's wide receiver 24. Wide receiver 26 for me and potentially trending downwards is Travis Hunter. Adam Schefter talked about this. Excuse me, Liam Cohen talked about this. He said he's going to play more on defense this week.
Yep.
I don't want to put too much pressure on our great friend of the show, Adam Schefter, but last week, Saturday night, he dropped a story about how Travis Hunter was going to be an every play wide receiver and a limited defensive back. That was how things looked on Sunday. No surprise. Shefty was money in the bank, as he always is. Again, no pressure, Shefty, but if you want to give us on Saturday night the expected role for Travis Hunter, that would be great. Because playing more on defense might mean 12 snaps on defense and still about every snap on offense. We don't know that, but I have hedged a tiny bit in my Travis Hunter ranking because I believe more defense means less offense. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I don't expect his role to expand drastically on defense. I just don't know if that there's room there. I mean, last week they felt like, all right, we're going to pull Jarrian Jones off the field a little bit opposite Tyson Campbell because they have Jordan Lewis in the slot and he's terrific. So he's not going anywhere. Campbell's not going anywhere. So they're going to pull Jones out a little bit and put him in there. Monteric Brown is a guy that's been out. I don't know if he's going to play this week, but he's a guy that could rotate in. So I don't know if there's room for him to play a ton of snaps on defense. They don't need him there. They need him on offense. So yes, he might play a few more snaps, but I don't know if you want a guy running all these routes on offense and then being like, hey, go cover Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's who he's going to cover on the perimeter. They're the outside guys. So I don't know.
Notably, and this does not align with what I expected coming out of college, he was a slot receiver in week one. Trevor Hunter was a slot receiver for the Jaguars, which might decrease the big play volume, but it might increase the overall volume, right? So there's a bit of a push-pull there that I think if he is playing, again, 80 to 85% of the snaps week in and week out on offense, that's going to be a player who's going to have value.
Yeah, he had a huge target share.
Huge target share last week in a quirky game with bad weather. Wouldn't surprise me if he continues to play that amount of snaps. If we're talking about Hunter as a borderline top 20 wideout, we'll have further conversations about Brian Thomas Jr. at a later time when I'm in a better mental state.
Brian Thomas Jr., though, is still a lineup lock for this game, even after a tough week one, correct?
Yeah, he has to be for now. We got to get that Lawrence connection going, but for now, we're moving forward.
All right, your first preview of part two, Mike Clay.
Yeah, so, guys, how many Browns is too many Browns?
That's the question.
In fantasy
what can Brown
lineups?
do for you?
What can Brown? Well, I don't know if enough
UPS?
to justify where what we're thinking about all these guys, because we suddenly have a lot of guys seemingly on the fantasy radar.
Yep.
Obviously, if we assume Quinshon Judkins doesn't go this week, we have Dylan Sampson, who we view as at least a flex option. At least a flex option after we saw last week. We're crossing off Jerome Ford, but we have Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, who had the same number of targets last week. Tillman scored again.
Yep.
Remember, last year when he was healthy, midseason, he was doing great. He was a top scorer. He was the top scoring receiver for a couple weeks. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy, we're keeping him in lineups. And then the two tight ends are suddenly a conversation with David Njoku. And one of the top waiver ads this week in fantasy was, of course, Harold Fannin, who had 9 targets in week one. So the question is, can we really consider starting 5 guys in this offense?
You know why? Because we've seen this from the Browns previously. Like within the past year or 2 years, when Joe Flacco was there 2 years ago. And what we're not seeing from this Browns offense, what Mike, I don't believe, is declaring, is there's anybody within the Browns offense that is an absolute top 5 at his position. The closest is probably, just because he plays tight end, David Njoku. But all these guys can like scrape right around like back end starter level at their respective positions, which has fantasy value.
Yeah.
They're going to be a pass heavy offense. I do think they're going to probably struggle to score points. That being said, a lot of volume, even in the absence of touchdowns, is totally fine for the pass catchers.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we're going to see an offense that gives us 2 fantasy relevant tight ends, or relevant enough if Harold Fanning continues to be able to get the
a long time since we had
the snaps that he's had. It has been a minute.
Yeah, and since 2011, only one. Actually, since 20, I think it's 2021, we've had one.
Zach
offense.
Ertz and Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, exactly right. And
obviously
Ertz,
before that, the Patriots.
Yeah, but it was easy to get in the back end at that point, and Ertz missed some games, and Goddard's kind of spiked, and that's why he got in there. But last year it was kind of close because we had Isaiah Likely was in the top 20, but most of that was week 1, and then he really fell off. So I just think it's going to be hard for both of them to, especially in this offense that we don't expect to score a lot, to be top even 15 scores. And I think David Njoku, who still had more snaps last week than Fannin, is going to be the preferred fantasy option. I don't think that's a bold take by any means. So Fannin is a guy that I view more as Isaiah Likely than I do a guy that's actually going to be a weekly starter. And if you say, but Mike, he's playing wide receiver, okay, but so are Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. I just don't know that they're going to support essentially three
wide receivers.
Fantasy start. And Cedric Tillman, we're ranking him as like a 12-team league flex, not a must start by any means, but that's still a lot of mouths to feed, even with Joe Flacco under center, and he's not going to run. Yeah, it's still going to be tough. By the way, one closing note here, circling back to the running backs, is kind of quietly, Jerome Ford did out snap and out route Dylan Sampson last week. So just a little bit of pause on Sampson there. Just be careful with that. And Quinshon Judkins, I don't know if he'll play this week. If he does, he'll be limited. But
we're not advising.
Don't get too carried away
Ford,
on Sampson.
Just to be clear.
While we're talking about tight ends, I just want to mention really quickly, it seems as though we should expect to be without Dallas Goedert, who you had just mentioned has not practiced for a couple of days now in a row, Mike. We've already pulled him out of the projection. So something if you are starting Dallas Goedert to be aware of. And Brock Bowers did not practice last week. It seems like there's at least a conversation. Sorry, last night, not last week. Seems like there's at least a conversation. If I had Brock Bowers in my lineup, I just want to make sure that I had an insurance option just in case he decides not to go here in week 2.
The good news is there is a very good one in his own team. His teammate, Michael Mayer. Now, if he is gone by Monday night, you are very limited in terms of options. But if he's available, wouldn't be bad to grab him if you have
insurance, a fantasy insurance tight end.
That's right.
You don't see him very often.
No, you don't.
Isaiah Likely and Mayer, there's not many.
Daniel, hit me with your number one storyline of the week for week.
Are you guys? No, not him. No. Are you? Not my number one storyline, but one of my top storylines. Are you guys trusting Aaron Jones over Jordan Mason, or do you think that the gap has closed? Where at this point we're kind of looking at this Vikings running back situation similar to the way that we just talked about the Seahawks running back situation earlier this year or earlier this week, where this is now a committee between these two guys.
It definitely is a committee.
Correct.
It's definitely a committee.
Are they starters? Are you sure?
I'm sorry. The pause is trying to compare them to the Seahawks running backs. Mason ran the best out of the 4 of them for sure in week 1.
Yes.
Jones is going to play enough. He's going to get some passing game utilization. But yes, he feels like a classic stuck in the mud player one of these weeks where it's like rather than having a 28-yard receiving touchdown, he doesn't. And you're like, wait, Aaron Jones got 8.5 fantasy points? What the heck, man?
I think it. So go ahead.
I was just going to say they tried that a couple times with him, a couple wheel route opportunities. So that seems to be more of a defined role for him this year is in the passing game because they're clearly turning over a lot of the carries to Jordan Mason. But here's the thing. As we know, target's more valuable than carries. You can get it have a 12 to 8 edge in carries or something and be the worst fantasy option because you're not uninvolved in the passing game. And that's going to be an issue with Jordan Mason. He has a handful of catches and targets in his NFL career, and he's 27, 28 years old.
He's a very touchdown dependent player. He can go 12 for 52 and surprise anyone.
But that's my long way of saying that. I have Aaron Jones a couple spots ahead. They're close. The gap has closed to answer your question, but I'm still leaning Jones because the passing game work is just, it lifts your floor. It gives you such a better opportunity.
With you leaning Jones, which I can totally buy, especially with the passing game work. Neither one of these guys had a touch inside the 10-yard line. I think if one of them did, it probably would be Jordan Mason as the goal line guy, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that with what you saw from Jordan Mason, it has moved Aaron Jones far enough down your running back ranks that you no longer view him as a starting level player, or do you think he's still flex worthy here in week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons?
I'm at like 20 before pulling guys out yesterday, 25. So
25.
Yeah,
okay.
so I would say flex option
or a 12-team starter. Of those 4, the 2 Seahawks running backs and the 2 Vikings running backs, they're all very close. I think the order, based off what we saw in week 1 for me, would be Aaron Jones 1. It would be Zach Charbonnet 2. Jordan Mason 3, Kenneth Walker the third 4.
Wow.
So you don't think there's? I have a Walker just ahead of Charbonnet. I think that maybe he'll take on a little more now.
I believe it's going to be more and more Zach Charbonnet.
I got I got Charbonnet over Ken Walker as well. These like all 4 of these running backs are basically in the RB25 to RB35 range because they're just cannibalizing each other's fantasy value in our lineups.
Correct. Well, that's a good way to segue to my second burning question of week 2. I'm going to name you a backfield, and you tell me yay or nay to playing anybody from this backfield in week 2.
Okay.
Seahawks. And I mean, when I say yay or nay, like let's just call that a top 25 back.
Okay.
Because if you're in a 16-team league, you might be playing retired players. Okay. Seahawks, let's start there.
No.
Nay.
Okay. I'm at 32 and 34.
I would agree. So I would, my preference is to not play a Seahawks back.
Agreed.
Kansas City Chiefs.
No.
Nay.
Preference is nay as well.
Sorry, I already broke the rule. I already said the wrong word.
That's
See,
twice.
I do say words wrong.
No.
Nay.
Whatever. Yay or nay.
Nay, not
Nay.
no.
Don't worry. I am the king of screwing up small, simple things. Patriots, yay or nay?
I have Henderson at 26.
I was going to say
close.
that's close.
Honestly, we talked about this earlier in the week. Ideally, nay. I mean, ideally he's on your bench, but where you drafted him, you might want to throw him in your flex spot. It your roster might be constructed that way, and that might be okay.
This might be me trying to manifest something, which in the past has worked out very poorly for me here on Fantasy Focus, but does feel like a little bit of the pressure has been turned up on New England to like play the kid, man. Like it's completely useless.
Yeah.
Like it's sorry, that's too strong. It's not completely useless, but it's logical to have this kid playing whatever it was, 40% of the snaps to Ramondre's 60 as opposed to the inverse.
My hope is too against this Dolphins team that they're able to get rolling because I don't have a lot of faith in this.
And this happens sometimes. It's not like it's over for him. Like my panic level on like Matthew Golden versus Henderson is way different. Much more panic on Golden being startable. Henderson, I mean, with all the passing game work last week, I think he's still good for him. He's still borderline after being smoked in the touchdown or in the snap department last week. And he should only play more. And we see this from young running backs.
He's
sometimes.
a good buy low candidate along those lines.
Yeah, sure.
I know the answer to this. I think you guys are both going to have the same answer, but I just wanted to bring it up because we didn't discuss this team much last week. New York Giants, yay or nay?
I would say I would say, right? I have Tracy 21, so I guess he would be a borderline yay. I feel pretty good about him.
No. Yeah, I mean, for now, it is not a committee in New York.
It's not. I just don't like the backfield.
That's fine.
It's another. Go ahead.
This is like Cam Scatterbo. Maybe it's because of the preseason time missed. Maybe it's because Tyrone Tracy is the incumbent. I don't know what the reasons are, but like it's very clearly Tyrone Tracy over Cam Scatterbo for now.
Yeah, and it is the same kind of scenario where Scatterbo, his role should increase as the year goes on, but I'm not sure that's happening this week. So that's why I still have Tracy as a fringe top 20 option. Definitely a RB2 flex.
Yeah, but the reason why I think the Scatterbo to Tracy thing is different than some of like the young player versus more veteran players is like Tracy's good. Like he played well last year, and he was like, I think he's fine. Like I'm not concerned about him compared to some of the other backs that we have discussed. Pittsburgh Steelers, yay or nay?
I'd play Jalen Warren.
I'm still gonna go Warren. He did score, and I think his role. They can't like sometimes. And look, we've been shocked by this kind of stuff before. No. I cannot imagine Kenneth Gainwell is going to remain a featured running back in this offense.
Only one coordinator could do that to Mike.
Yes, correct. I mean, he was a backup in Philly for so long. Like, I just can't imagine them really thinking he's moving the needle.
Just wait until they sign Cordero Patterson, and now it's a three-headed committee without Caleb Johnson.
Baby. Last one here, quickly, yay or nay, Texans.
Nay.
I do not want to play Nick Chubb if I can help it.
Would be the choice. Maybe a non-PPR if you're desperate enough for your flex, but that's it.
There you go. So the three teams that made the cut were the Giants, most declaratively, the Steelers, and the Patriots with Jalen Warren and Travion Henderson, respectively.
By the way, it was
respectively as well.
Yeah. By the way, it was like bad enough that teams are moving more to like backfield duos. Now we have teams that are just like, we're just going to use 4 tailbacks this week, maybe 5 with the fullback. Like, stop it.
Don't need it.
They don't care about us. I mean, the NFL doesn't care about us when they have a Week 14 bye with players like Christian McCaffrey and Malik Neighbors unavailable. They don't care.
We're not talking about. We don't care about their win-loss record here. We're talking about fantasy football.
That's right.
And we care.
That's right.
Stop.
All right, Michael, you are up next, my friend.
All right, next up, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. Are we trusting anyone in this offense other than one Alvin Kamara? We're starting him, obviously, but anyone else?
There's one guy, and trust is a strong word, but there's one guy that I would consider.
So The only reason that we're not trusting Juwan Johnson is that Juwan Johnson is a good player, but not like an established great player. And this offense does not have a quarterback that has earned our trust yet. Every metric from last week tells you that Juwan Johnson is unequivocally startable.
Yeah, he's on the fringe. And by the way, I look back to late last year because Spencer Rattler was playing late last year. Juwan Johnson now has 12 plus fantasy points in 3 straight games, all with Spencer Rattler, and 5 of his last 8 tracing back to last year. So this is a trend that has picked up, going into last season. The problem is the quarterback efficiency is horrendous here. And this I'm going to bulk all 3 guys together because last week you look at the target volume, you're like, this is great. Chris Olave, 13 targets. Juwan had 11. Rashid Shaheed had 9. So you're thinking, have to start those guys. I mean, they're very talented and that's a lot of volume. Those 33 targets combined resulted in 163 yards and no touchdowns in that game. I mean, Spencer Rattler's career efficiency is terrible. It was not any better last week, excuse me. So Olave and Shaheed, I've ranked 39th and 46. I don't think I want to start either of those guys. Maybe Olave in a 12-team league flex, something like that. Yeah. Johnson, I have a tight end 14, so he's borderline, actually up to 11 after you remove Goddard and the Thursday night guys. Yep. I think your only hope with Juwan here is he this year's Jonnu Smith? A guy that's like later in his 20s and maybe now he turns the corner and he just sees an enormous amount of volume this season and makes that leap into the weekly tight end 1 conversation. Maybe that's what you're hoping for.
And I'm not, and this is a metric that has failed us previously, so I'm not saying it's ironclad, and the Saints definitely have some curious spending habits, but it did sign him to a 3-year, $30.75 million contract. This is not a total unknown coming out of nowhere and having a decent start, or a very good start to the NFL season.
I'm glad he said 30.75 because if it was 6.5, like if he just rounded down to 30 million, 3 years there, I would have been like, I'm not drafting that. I'm not picking
3
him
years,
up on waivers.
$30.67 million.
I
say that once.
Was he a former wide receiver or is he a former basketball player?
It's one of those two. Oregon and Penn State. Yes.
Okay.
All tight ends are one of them.
Tight ends are either a former basketball player or a former wide receiver at some point.
He was a transfer before the transfer portal existed. Like, he waited his turn at Penn State and then Oregon. Like, he had to sit out for a season. Juwan's a talented guy.
Yes, he is.
You're next.
All right, guys, I'm going to light the fuse here on this one. But do you really think Patrick Mahomes is a top 10 quarterback without his top 2 pass catchers?
Hold on. Maybe. But I'm glad you brought this up because I was going to find a way to interrupt it and talk about something that the 3 of us discussed yesterday. So Xavier Worthy returned to practice yesterday.
He did.
Limited capacity.
Yep.
We don't know whether he is going to play on Sunday. I think the odds are probably unlikely. But it's possible. Like, it hasn't been ruled out at the time that the 3 of us are having this conversation. Anything is possible. So I do want to have the conversation through 2 different lenses, like with Xavier Worthy and without. And the risk that Xavier Worthy runs if he plays is if he takes a big hit and that thing pops back out, that shoulder pops back out, he might be gone.
Yep.
And
for the season.
Whether
right?
Whether that's returning Sunday, returning next week, the week after, 8 weeks from now, whenever it is, like, there is a long window in which recidivism
that's right
is still possible. So do I still think Patrick Mahomes is a top 10 quarterback with or without Xavier Worthy? I do. You know why? He was running for his damn life.
So I'm glad that you said that. Let's talk about that because he scored 11.7 fantasy points via the run. That was the second most number of fantasy points using his legs of his entire NFL career. Yeah. Since the start of 2024, just looking at what he's done recently, he doesn't run that much. He averages closer to 25 rushing yards. If he had an average rushing day, he would have been quarterback 15, give or take, on the week. So do you think, and you've used this term before, Field, do you guys think that this rushing upside that we saw in week 1 is sticky enough to propel him up to that point, knowing that he's very likely going to be without, in my estimation, Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy here in week 2?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. First of all, obviously, I'm not going to project that same amount of rushing. If he's at that level, you expect some regression. But I do think he'll run a little more than we're used to for a variety of reasons. Also, they're playing the Eagles. And remember, he did a lot of damage in garbage time against the Eagles last time they played in the Super Bowl because he had to throw it against a good football team. And I think that's going to happen again this week. The running game is nothing, as we just talked about. That's not a threat. We're not worried about that. So this is a pass-heavy offense. He's obviously super talented. He's going to have to throw a lot. The Eagles have some issues on the defensive side of the football, as we saw against Dallas.
0 sacks, 1 quarterback hit last
Yeah,
week.
And that was I mean, man, I'm an Eagles fan, and Eagles fans did not want to hear that. I mean, I had that fan base coming at me in the offseason because how could you doubt this? Well, they lost all those players in the front seven, and they have a clear hole in the number 2 cornerback spot, and that almost crushed them. CeeDee Lamb could have had 200 yards in that game if he didn't drop a couple passes. He was open. So there's a lot of opportunity here for Mahomes to make plays, throw potentially 40 passes, run for 30 yards and a touchdown. Like there's a lot of potential here for him to produce. So yes, my answer is I think he's a fringe top.
All right, you've got him as top 5. Field, you've got him at 6. I've got him at 9. I think that he has a better chance to be outside the top 10 than he has a chance to be inside the top 10.
This sounds like a board bet. Yeah.
True,
I don't know if we're doing board bets.
No, you know what? Kyle Soppe, the legendary Kyle Soppe. We love Kyle so much. Has been keeping track of our very, very small number of board bets we have been making so far. So
We love the guy.
I do love Kyle. In the interest of content, I say Patrick Mahomes is inside the top 10 of quarterbacks in week 2.
And I say Patrick Mahomes is outside the top 10 of quarterbacks in week 2. And Mike says he is exactly quarterback 10 in week 2.
I'll take it.
Put it on the board.
Mike gets 2 if
he's exactly top 10. Yeah.
So both fair. Daniel and I lose.
All right.
Keep it
next to
here.
you got the next one, Field Yates.
Here we go. Are we starting the guys who kind of got traded for each other this offseason, but not exactly? Meaning Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers.
Of course,
Fields goes
one of those.
One of them I will, yeah.
We are starting Justin Fields this week. Yay, right? Yay all the way around.
Yes.
Justin Fields, a top 7 quarterback for me, 6 for Mike, 5 for Daniel. Of course, Fields had 2 rushing touchdowns this past weekend. He had the 14 rushing attempts.
That rushing is sticky, yes.
And that is the rushing we continue to expect. The Bills had 0 answers for the much, 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 much souped up version of Justin Fields, that being, of course, Lamar Jackson. But Fields was spinning that thing too as well. He was throwing the ball very, very well. So we're all aligned. Justin Fields inside lineups this week. You guys buying the Aaron Rodgers performance, yay or nay?
No.
I've been using yay or nay too much.
I did it again. I keep forgetting.
Yeah, yay or nay? No.
I'm just thinking. I'm not thinking about the game. I'm thinking about the actual prognosis for Rodgers.
Okay, I've got Rodgers quarterback 17. You guys both have him outside your top 25.
Yes.
Nowhere close.
I would not start him this week. I think that when you look at Aaron Rodgers, and I said this on SportsCenter on Tuesday, sorry about that. But when you look at Aaron Rodgers, I think that he will help the Steelers win more football games than he will help your fantasy team win football games. He will be a better NFL quarterback than a fantasy quarterback.
He could throw 2 touchdowns every week and not be good in fantasy, much like Joe Flacco, because he's not going to run the ball. He's not going to get. You basically need the 4 touchdowns to pay off as a top 10
But if he protects the football and just has a nice average day, utilizes the defense that they have and the running, like I don't think he needs to light the world on fire.
Well,
that's a great question.
Threw 4 touchdowns in the opener. Awesome. Might not happen again this season. Also, it's not like this is a high-powered passing game.
No.
Back-to-back games with 4 more passing touchdowns. And
do we think Calvin Austin's going to be one?
I was just going to say, who else is catching the ball here?
We're going to start Austin.
Roman Wilson going to come out and start doing things?
Jonnu Smith.
Wilson with the 0 catches on 1 target last week.
Back-to-back, by the way, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, back-to-back revenge games because it was Aaron Rodgers week 1 against the Jets. This one is against the Seahawks, so it's DK Metcalf. So we'll see if that gives a little bit of a bump there as well.
At first, I was like, wait, who does Aaron Rodgers want to exact revenge upon?
Yeah.
Then I was like, you know what? Honestly, Aaron Rodgers probably has somebody he wants to exact revenge upon in every single NFL
squad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so in on Justin Fields, excuse me. You guys are out on Rodgers. I've got him as quarterback.
There's just too many quarterbacks in that tier.
Okay,
you can almost justify it because there's so many guys.
Fair.
Last one for me is we got to talk about the 49ers offense a little bit because it's not just no George Kittle. It's also no Brock Purdy this week, and it might not be Juwan Jennings either, who did not practice yesterday.
Second straight day of no practice.
Yeah, so that's a big concern. So we have to talk about who we are going to consider here because it's not just some guys are out, some guys are replacing them. It's also an expectation that we'll see some offensive drop-off going to the backup quarterback. So I think we can agree Ricky Pearsall, we're locking in. He shadowed last week. Still had a very good game. I have him at 31. I moved him down a little bit, but still wide receiver 3 on that radar. Juwan Jennings, if he plays, I think a 12-team league flex option.
Okay.
Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's locked in. I don't even have to mention him. By far the number 1 receiver or running back for me this week. And then
he might be the number 1 receiver in that offense too.
Yeah, he could. He might be. And then I'll just give you a little stat here, and you guys tell me if you're going to stream this guy this week with no George Kittle. After Kittle left last week's game, Jake Tonjes ran 15 routes compared to 12 for Luke Farrell. Caught the touchdown, but they had a combined 19 yards on 4 targets in the game.
No.
Agreed.
I'm out. And for those reasons, I'm out.
Not sure.
I was watching that last night. So,
Were you?
Where are you?
a little bit.
Okay.
You know what I like to do?
Instead of watching football?
I like to watch after the game because I always have a lot of adrenaline, and I was furious about Steve Bronze or whatever we're calling him.
Wow.
And
Hater.
I'm mad about this. So I had adrenaline, so I put that on. I always put something on in the background, Family Guy. That's something just to fall asleep to. But I always like to watch them and then like kind of just Google what that company's doing today.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Like, have they materialized into something after their...
Especially if they're like arrogant or something, then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I want to see if this guy actually, and sometimes they are.
Sometimes
Biggest
they've done
success from Shark Tank? Probably Dude Wipes.
Oh,
Yes.
Good
It's got
call.
to be near the top. Shout out.
Yeah, they got to be near the top.
That's got to be one of the best Shark Tank company
No
breakouts.
doubt. That's got to be on the list. Yeah.
I agree with that.
All right,
I got one more.
do it.
And I'm finally going to tell you guys, I'm trying to speak into existence Larry Fitzgerald level volume for Marvin Harrison Jr. All right. Did he get enough volume in week 1 to quell the concerns that we had heading into the season? I know he had 5 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, 18.1 fantasy points, but he only had 6 targets again in this game. And it's not like they just blew the Saints out and they turned into a running football team.
20-13.
It was actually much closer than what you have realized. I'm wondering if we need to change our expectations on Marvin Harrison Jr., depending on what happens here in week 2. And do I need to start thinking about him more like he is a Devontae Smith or Zay Flowers type guy with the kind of volume he's going to get rather than a potential wide receiver one that was drafted as a top 5 pick in the NFL
I
draft?
think we kind of already moved down from wide receiver 1 coming into the season. He was being drafted as like wide receiver 20 to 23. It was interesting, though, while we're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., I stayed here last week to watch the games. We watched right next to the cafeteria. We call it the war room. And middle of the slate, all of a sudden, an alarm starts to go off. And everybody was like, oh, crap, is everything okay? We turn around, look, and it's like, is that a fire alarm? No, not the fire alarm. Is it a smoke alarm? No. Gas? No. It was an alarm that someone claimed Michael Lester Clay set off because Marvin Harrison Jr. got a wide receiver screen.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's
We did
go,
it.
baby.
Love it.
The alarm went off. Yeah.
So they, Jonathan Gannon must tune into the pod.
Yeah, he does.
As
Big
we
fan.
were-
Big
yeah,
fan of
yeah.
Fantasy Focus. So yeah,
6 targets.
6. I thought it was 7. 5, 6, 6, 7.
Well,
Five,
either
5
way.
catches for 6
So
targets.
21% target share
I was
was
just
not
trying to-
enough.
Workshop a 6, 7.
That's a,
6, 7. No luck.
I don't know
No.
what he's talking about.
No one knows what 6, 7 means.
No.
We don't know what it means. There's no definition of it. It's just a term.
Okay.
wait,
Yes.
that's a
kids say?
question or is that a
Kids say?
statement to
No,
us?
no, I'm telling you, like I did some research on this.
And nobody knows.
applicable meaning of 6, 7. We just say it. And it's
Okay.
fun to say.
All right.
If
Well,
you
Mike,
say so. I don't know. What I say is a 21% target share is not going to cut it for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Anymore, yeah.
to get to his ceiling. So we need that to pick up there. Playing Carolina, maybe makes a leap forward this season. But it is funny, and I respect you bringing this up and having this conversation because oftentimes we'll be like, he had 18 fantasy points in week 1. That's great. We're good. You know, we're off and running. Nothing to question. Here it comes. He's breaking out. But you got to look a little deeper.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look a little deeper, you see the target share is not where it needs to be. So I am projecting. I'm at 26%.
Yeah.
Okay.
I expect him to be closer to that number. But if we go at several weeks here and he's sitting at 20%, 21, that's not going to do it. Then we're going to have to move him down.
then it's going to
We're
start
gonna have to
feeling like, we're now in a different category with the way that we approach our expectations for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Sir.
All right, new segment. Who's bullish and who's bearish? This is going to be, Mike, you're going to play the Buzz Killington role here with this one.
Love this.
We're going to introduce a couple of players that you are different than field and eye on heading into week 2 from your rankings perspective.
All right.
And let's start at the running back spot. Derrick Henry taking on the Cleveland Browns.
All in, right?
Is he even good? I don't even.
Fields got him at 3. I've got him at 4. You've got him outside the top 5, all the way at running back 7. What
Yeah.
did Derrick Henry do last week to make you drop him all the way to running back 7?
Well, I mean, it's the somewhat boom bust nature of his game in terms of these ceiling games, right? We saw this last year. I have him projected for 18 fantasy points this week. He was under that in 9 of 17 games last season. And is his role different this year? Is there anything different about him? I don't.
He does look somehow more muscular. I didn't know that was possible, but yes.
Okay, fair point. Also, the Browns did a really nice job against, I know it's different type of running back, but they were playing Chase Brown last
Yeah,
week.
they did.
57 yards and 25
I'm sorry.
touches.
Did you just compare Chase Brown and Derrick Henry?
Same guy, basically. I confuse them
Yeah.
sometimes.
If you took Chase Brown and his twin brother Sidney Brown and combined them into
Yes.
one person,
If you
They'd still be
stacked them
smaller.
on in
They
a
would
trench coat and
equate
put
to
one on
Derrick
the other's
Henry.
shoulders, yeah.
You'd still be like, that's still way smaller than Derrick Henry. But anyway, the Browns defense did look like they were better last year. And again, Henry does this. He's going to have these massive spike games, and then he's going to be a mid-range, a mid-range RB1. And that's where I have him. I do have a mid-range RB1. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not only that, there's actually some evidence that the Browns have done a good job bottling up, and good is a relative term. They've been better than most in terms of bottling up Derrick Henry. I've still got him as RB3 because I would be petrified of the possibility of like a 12 carry, 142 yard, 1 touchdown first half from Derrick Henry. That's always in the bag. Did you guys see what Grant Delpit said?
Yeah,
I did see that.
I was just going to bring this up, and apparently a coach made a comment about it as well. About
I
them
didn't
being
see
able
that
to,
part, but
yeah.
Grant Delpit, Brown safety, was asked like, how hard is it to tackle Derrick Henry? And he was like, not hard. And then the Browns' own Twitter account quote tweeted when Grant said that with a video of Grant Delpit like tackling Derrick Henry really hard, like very forcefully. It must have been last season because it was with Baltimore. And I'm like, okay, like,
why would you do this?
like if like Tiger Woods does not win one tournament, does that mean that the person who beat him in that tournament was a better golfer than Tiger Woods? No, like Derrick Henry gets tackled every once in a while. That's not the point. The point is that like it's hard to do that.
Yeah, why would you want to make him mad? What are you doing,
know.
Browns? Like, why do they just constantly do stuff wrong?
Over under on Grant Delpit getting either truck sticked or stiff armed by Derrick Henry in this one. I'll take the over on it happening at least one time in week 2.
Looking for him there. That's the only reason I feel like I should move him up a few spots because that little extra. Not that he needs.
I was like Derrick Henry needs to be angry.
Goodness. Why? What are you doing?
No idea.
All right, let's talk about a rookie wide receiver. Field, you brought him up a little bit earlier in the show, but we got Teteroa McMillan. I got him at 20. Field, you got him at 21. Mike's got him all the way down at 29, which is a little confusing to me.
Can I ask a quick timeout here?
Sure, go ahead.
Timeout. Like, is there some sort of like I'm at 3, you're at 7, 5? Like, we're doing a lot of like games within the show here. Like, are we?
You want to put something on this Derrick Henry?
I mean, I'll put something on the board, but again, we talked about.
No, I
this
don't want to do 3 board bets back to back to back. I just mean like, do you have to like I don't know, pay me a quarter? Probably can't do that, but metaphorical quarter.
A Monopoly quarter.
Yes, Monopoly quarter.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, this tier is so close anyway, but also, I mean, there was a guy. The reason I'm a little lower here is, I mean, partially I want to see more from Bryce Young, but also. This Arizona defense, I think, is living up to expectations as a potential breakout unit. And there's a guy you texted me about, in fact, on I think Sunday or Monday.
Billy Johnson.
Yeah, Will Johnson played very well, and the Arizona actually allowed the fewest fantasy points over expected to receivers in Week 1. The secondary played well.
Timeout. Like that's a great stat, but also who did they play in Week 1?
Who did they play? You tell me.
The New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Right? Like I recognize there was a lot of volume there, but like that's not a passing game where
Well,
we
I'm
feel
just saying
like
it was a.
the numbers don't lie. I'm just saying
you can only beat who you're playing against. It's fair. It's totally fair. But you can only play against the team you're facing, and they were effective. And also, it was a team going into the season that we were like, okay, this could be something.
Yep.
On paper, the front 7 looks good. You have a young secondary that could break out. Will Johnson played exceptional. They had to cover Shaheed and Chris Olave and shut them down. So I'm just saying. The results were there based on what we were hoping for, and I don't know.
Maybe
I think
we
there's
do like
Cardinals.
Points. We do points. I'm still thinking about the game part of this.
Yeah. I just don't know that it's a walk in the park matchup like it's been in years past. So that's all. I mean,
shadowing from Will Johnson last week?
No.
Okay.
Knowing that Juwan Johnson tore up that defense, do you think that Jatavian Sanders is a big play for you this week here?
He was my long shot last week, and he got us like 5 points.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Didn't
go
like that. Wasn't Shefty's long shot Romeo Dobbs?
Romeo Dobbs, yeah.
That felt like a different. You guys play by a different long shot standard than we do.
Yeah, it seems a little different.
It was
20% versus 1%.
Yeah, that's there's a big difference for us. Speaking of tight ends, one last one here. Kyle Pitts.
Not buying the hype here, Mike?
Mike, you've got him at 16.
Yeah.
Field has him at 10. I've got him at 11. Couple things really quickly before you go into this. Darnell Mooney still limited at practice. We're going to continue to monitor that. Casey Washington, who took over that Darnell Mooney role, 2 DNPs in a row while dealing with a concussion, unfortunately. So if we may be thin, and Drake London still banged up as well.
That
Expect
was more
Drake London
the Casey
to play.
Washington role was more Drake London than Darnell Mooney and anyways, they could be healthy. They might not be.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have Drake London.
There's a chance that Kyle Pitts could, be the number 2 pass catcher in this offense again.
I have them all projected for now, but if I pull Mooney out of there, Pitts will go up a little bit. I will say this. We have seen this from Kyle Pitts before. He had a touchdown in Week 1 last season. He also had 7 for 88 on 8 targets, 7 for 65 on 9 targets, 4 for 92 and 2 touchdowns. All this was before Week 9 last season. So we've seen these games, and then suddenly he has 1 catch for 7 yards. So a little pause. Also, Minnesota had to face Colson Loveland and Cole Kmet last week. 3 catches, 43 yards. It's a very good defense. So, yeah, I'm not there yet on Pitts. I still think he's a tight end too.
Honestly, I can't blame you, Mike. You know why? Because every time you trust Kyle Pitts, it's like, oh, I trusted Kyle Pitts and he went 3 for 19.
I feel like we've got multiple narratives, though, when we talk about the tight end position, because it's like, I can't trust Kyle Pitts. And I'm saying the exact same thing right along with you guys. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. But then we also say tight end is one of those positions that, like, maybe it just takes the guy 4 or 5 years. And we've had a couple of those guys the last couple seasons that have
like Brock Bauer, Sam Laporta, and Trey McBride.
I know.
I just thought of something, by the way. I feel like not just me, but like all of us and like everybody who I know who plays fantasy football has the quip where it's like, yeah, it's like every time you trust Kyle Pitts, he goes 3 for 19. Is there anybody in your life who's like, I'm just telling you, like every single time that I play Matthew Stafford, he throws for 325 and 2 touchdowns.
No.
I don't know what it is, but I just nail it every time.
I would love to know.
It's always Debbie Downers.
Yeah. Because that's usually how it works. Because it's like you're throwing darts, but you don't hit your dart shots like that often. Right. That's the thing, right?
Those eyes are hard to hit. You know what? I'm taking the different mentality. I'm playing Kyle Pitts and 13 fantasy points are coming.
I think
YOLO.
that I also, not that we need to do another board bet, but like I would think that Kyle Pitts is going to be much better than tight end 16. If let's say that there is no Darnell Mooney. Right now you've got him at 16, Mike.
Yeah, I'll move him up.
He move up
if
to
I pull
top
Mooney
12,
out, he'll
top
be
10?
he'll be around Jawan and John. I'd say he'll probably be 12, maybe 13, right in there.
Want to move him up.
Oh, look at you, Field Yates.
Strange.
All right. Let's dive into our starts of the week for week 2. We're going to spin the wheel of punishment after we get through this week's starts of the weeks. We'll tell you where that finished.
Fun, good, clean fun. We'll bring the wheel up here in a second.
Okay.
We'll bring the wheel up in a second. Last week, though, Fields, you came in first place. You had 48.2 total fantasy points.
Close.
I had 46.5 total fantasy points, and Mike, you finished with 45.
Yeah,
so it was
so close.
It was
very
close.
Versus Drake May, so it went either way. But yep, tight one. Nice
you
job,
had
though.
picked
All
Kyler?
within 3 points.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I got you.
I picked Kyler. I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. And it's funny because we all had Tedero McMillan. So it was a 3-person race, basically. And there were some absolute abominations. Each of us picked a player who scored exactly 1.5 fantasy points.
It's disgusting.
You guys
Ours was
picked
Jerome Ford.
Yeah.
Why did I switch to Jalen Warren? I would have won if I remember on the show. I was like, I want to switch to Warren, but I'll just leave it. Darn it.
I'm glad you did because I would have lost if you hadn't.
Yep. So should we make our picks for this week?
Yeah, let's do the picks. Why don't we let Mike go first, seeing as how he came in last week?
Yeah, and a reminder, we might have the same picks. There's nothing that precludes Daniel and I from both having, Lamar Jackson as our QB this week.
There is something that precludes.
There is. The rules are as follows. A quarterback outside the top 8 in the consensus ranks.
Yep.
A running back outside the top 15. A wide receiver outside the top 20. And a tight end outside the top 5.
Top 5 seems too low.
We might adjust.
Yeah, we got to adjust.
We're going to
Once
adjust
things settle, we'll get a good feel for where we're going to go. Okay.
All right.
My picks are, I'll just fly through these. Quarterback, I'm going back to with Drake May going against Miami.
Okay.
Didn't play great last week, but I still think we can get more out of his legs. Miami allowed 29.5 fantasy points to Daniel Jones.
Okay.
So I think May gets back on track. Running back, didn't do it last week. I'm doing it this week. Jalen Warren against Seattle. We saw too much Kenny Gainwell, but I think that changes a little bit this week. Seattle also allowed 33 fantasy points to Christian McCaffrey and company. So Warren, he's the guy this week. Wide receiver, everyone wants to say, Daniel included, this guy, he's coming back to earth. And he will to some extent, but Zay Flowers staying in there. We're rolling with Zay Flowers against the Cleveland Browns. They had a really good effort last week against the Bengals receiver, so that makes me a little nervous. But Flowers has these spike weeks here and there, so I'm going to stick with him. And then tight end, again, everyone's on the Harold Fandon bandwagon. David Njoku, still hanging around, super talented. This is a guy that averaged a bazillion targets, 8.2 per game last season. Still ran more routes. What?
A bazillion targets.
A bazillion. That's a stat. Yeah. That's a hashtag stat. Hashtag analytics. Still ran 36 routes to Harold Fandon's 30 last week. Baltimore also allowed a ton of fantasy points to Dalton Kincaid and the Bills tight end. So Njoku it is. So May, Warren, Flowers, Njoku. We're getting it done.
I love that, Mike Clay. Good luck in the lineup.
Actually, no good luck, but
yeah, no good luck to you, but good luck to you. Yeah.
Now you guys have to root against those 4 guys. So
yeah,
I'm sorry in advance.
I didn't have any of them. Did you have any of those guys?
I did. Yes. So do you want me to go now?
Yeah. Why don't you go? Because
my quarterback is Drake May, and I don't want to be too harsh and overreacting to every single player. But if it doesn't happen for Drake May this weekend, and we don't see, put it this way, if Drake May has a big game throwing the football, happy. If he has a big game throwing the football and has some design runs, thrilled would be the answer. If neither of those things happen, then we could be in for a come down on Drake May's value as a fantasy.
By the way, really quick, 3 scrambles, 1 read option.
Oh, there was
I watched. Yeah, okay. I watched what they did with him there. So 1 was a read option. So that's at least something.
It's better than the first 15 weeks of last season when he had 0 design runs. My running back is Javonte Williams for the Dallas Cowboys, who should see a ton of the volume. But for the Giants this week, game script should be favorable to them as well. Even if Javonte is not this dynamite player, plenty of volume in that Cowboys backfield. Lots of volume last week for Keenan Allen, who I think has settled in comfortably into that wide receiver 2 role for the Chargers. Even though it's wide receiver 3 in terms of snaps, he is the second most trusted wide receiver at worst for Justin Herbert's he and, of course, Ladd McConkey. And then finally, the aforementioned Kyle Pitts is my start of the week for all the reasons that we just discussed. If there is no Darnell Mooney, he could well be second in line in targets for the Falcons. They play the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, as Mike referenced.
All right. I also don't have any of those players.
Okay.
So we've got one overlap, and that's Drake May between you guys, right?
Yep. All right, that's fun.
I almost had Drake May as my quarterback, but I decided to pivot, and instead I decided to go. He's now quarterback 8 after we pulled out Thursday Night Football. He wasn't beforehand for what it's worth.
Cheating. Okay.
But it's Justin Herbert.
Okay,
I love the matchup against the Raiders. You just mentioned it with that all the wide receivers that they have in that offense. I think Justin Herbert is going to throw the ball a bunch. Love that Raiders matchup. My wide receiver is going to be Ricky Pearsall. No George Kittle. Juwan Jennings has not practiced yet this week. We'll continue to see how that works out. And we saw that Mac Jones could elevate the value of his number 1 wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. I am not saying that Ricky Pearsall is Brian Thomas Jr., but
is better.
I'm just saying that he is going to be able to find his guy. I think his guy is going to be Ricky Pearsall at the running back spot. I'm going to go to the well and take my guy. Home opener, David Montgomery. Vikings running backs smashed last week. One of the things that they did against the Chicago Bears were really bad at tackling. Allowed the 3rd most yards after contact per rush. That's sort of what Monty's game is built on. I think at home, Detroit's going to want to get back to the game that they didn't get to have in Green Bay in week 1. So I'm going to take David Montgomery. Think he gets in the end zone there. Give me an anytime touchdown for David Montgomery. And the last one is going to be Juwan Johnson. Just the volume and game script. Do I think the Saints will be down again? You can ask me that question basically every single week. My answer will always be yay.
Yay.
Well-used term right there.
That's right. So I'm just going with game script right now until I see something different. Juwan Johnson, I think, is just going to be heavily utilized as a tight end. And if you give me 7 to 8 plus targets at the tight end spot, I'm thinking I'm in a good spot.
Hard to argue with that logic right there.
All right.
Yeah,
Justin Herbert, Ricky Pearsall, David Montgomery, and Juwan Johnson. Those are my starts of the week.
If you guys had to make a survivor pick of the week, do you have one?
I do, and now I forget who I picked.
I had the Broncos last week.
I know. I might have.
It was certainly actually I had the Bengals last week.
I did the Bengals.
Bengals. That was risky, but
I am burning. I'm burning the Ravens this week. Yep, that's a big one to use this early in the season. They are playing the Browns at home.
Ooh,
right there. That's tricky.
This is a tough one. I'm looking through the matchups, and
got the Bills and playing at the Jets this week.
Yeah, I know.
I think I'd take the Rams.
We didn't prep for this at all. 49ers are going to New Orleans.
Rams against the
Rams are my pick as well. I liked some of the stuff that I saw from Cam Ward. I absolutely love the mentality of Cam Ward. This game is going to be really, really good. We'll talk about that for fantasy when the time comes, but just a straight NFL thought. I love Cam Ward's mindset.
I get nervous about picking a road team in Survivor.
Yeah.
I always try to lean with the home team. So
Fair.
We'll see.
All right. Well, we're at the point of the show, Mike, where you get to spin a wheel.
Yes.
Come up with a fantasy punishment. Our young Field Yates is going to pick this thing up. We got a wheel with a bunch of punishments that came from our YouTube chat. Shout out to you guys as well for making sure that we had a bunch of different options for our weekly punishments.
Whoever wrote on the wheel has excellent handwriting.
Yeah, great handwriting. Yeah, that is our producer, Christina.
There we go, right there.
Handwriting.
Okay, so I intentionally didn't even look at this, so I don't even know what's on here. So
give it a hefty spin.
Hefty spin here from Mike Clay. For those listening at home, we stopped at jersey from the winner's choice.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
All right. You got to wear a jersey that Field and I choose to the show next week.
Wait, did I win or did we win?
I think
Does he pick?
That's great. Yeah, your winner's choice. You're right.
But you guys can consult.
No. Well, I just thought you're right. I wasn't the winner. I just also wasn't the loser.
Right.
So I got confused there.
It just has to be one that exists, right?
Yes.
Or do I have to spend
I will not be
$270?
removing my Jake Bobo jersey from the case, so it's not going to be that. Although Bobo is cleared to practice now, which could mean good things for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Not yet lost a game this year in which he has been on the field. Okay. So when do I bring this jersey in, and when do you want to wear it?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
we'll pick one of those days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever you're feeling like it.
That sounds good.
Hey, I'm the one being punished. You guys decide.
I have a very
Pressure's off
random
me.
assortment of jerseys, so I have my jersey. I know what I'll bring. I'll make Mike.
Also-
it will mean something to me. It will mean nothing to Mike.
It doesn't have to be, for what it's worth. I think wrestlers, I mean, that singlet is their jersey.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, like, maybe that's what we have.
It's,
Yeah,
uniform, winner's choice.
Exactly.
As long as it's not shirtless, because we don't want to punish the viewer. We don't want that.
I texted our producer last night. So they showed one of the Packers fans that had like body paint on.
Yeah.
Like I was like, maybe that's one of our punishments. You have to do a shirtless body paint show. That'd
anybody
be a-
wants to
Did you
see
see the jacked guy they showed?
Yeah.
last
Yeah,
night?
that was-
Like-
it was-
it's like, oh my.
At first, I thought that was a guy who was wearing a suit of a Jack's person.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's a
Almost
real
looked
Jack
fake.
human. Yeah. Great crowd shots last night.
Yeah,
Lambeau
they
was
did.
rocking.
Yeah.
Lambeau was rocking. If you're a Packers fan, wouldn't you be on cloud 9 right now after the first 2
I would
weeks?
be. Yes, I would be. Yeah.
Shout out to our buddy Thirsty Kyle Soppy. Go for you, man. Love the Green Bay Packers for you. All right, that's
Not
going to
for
do it for us. Not for myself, not as a Lions fan. No, I think all of us in our Michigan Men group were like, oh, shoot, this wasn't a one-week
good,
thing.
yeah.
This is not what we wanted.
Not
All
great,
right,
Bob.
come watch us on Fantasy Football Now on Sunday
Sunday.
morning, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., helping you get everything you needed to set your lineups heading into week 2. But that's going to do it for us today. If you want to listen to the first part of our preview, head on back to the Thursday show. And shout out to our buddy Eric Moody, who has been in chat. You can follow him at Eric N. Moody over on social media.
Well said.
Don't forget to love each other. Be kind to yourself, and good luck here in week 2. We'll see you guys on Sunday.
To everybody except for the players they picked.
That's, yeah, okay.
Personally.
Okay, Field. Okay.
You're in the 06010.